If you're not running extensions or assets as they're now called in Google Ads, then you're likely leaving a lot of money on the table as your ads are a lot smaller in size than they could be, meaning that you're going to have a lower click-through rate, which will lead to a lower quality score, which will also lead to a higher cost per click. And a higher cost per click means that you won't be able to get as many leads as you could be within your budget each month. And so in today's video, we're going to walk you through all of the assets or extensions that we recommend using and are using for all of the accounts that we're managing inside Google Ads. So to go to assets, you want to come over here to the left hand side and go to assets and then just press assets again. And now just to go through the assets that I highly recommend using for any service-based business. First one is images, and these work particularly well if you're offering specific services, for example, in each ad group, where you could add real images from your jobs to those specific ad groups. So in this campaign, for example, where it's a landscaping company offering different landscaping services, for example, artificial grass installation, they would have an image of one of those jobs being added at the artificial grass ad group. They'd have fencing images added at the fencing ad group. And what you could add at the campaign level rather than the ad group level is if you have any photos that is relevant to your company, for example, photos of the team, or if you have a company van with your logo on it, or any photos that display your logo or just clearly identify that it's your company. These are massive authority boosters, and ads that we're running that have these displayed, when the image assets are displayed showing, for example, a company van with the logo clearly displayed, have a much higher conversion rate, not only click-through rate, than when you just have generic stock photos, for example, which I'd only recommend using if you really have no other images to use. But you should always try and use at least images from your actual services at all costs, because people can tell that stock photos aren't real photos from your projects and just don't appear as trustworthy as real images from your actual jobs. And before we move on through the rest of the assets as well, the reason why you want to use as many of these as possible is because, as they used to be called extensions, they literally extend the size of the ad, and that's why they give you much higher click-through rates than if you weren't to have them. Because if you have enough assets, they take up so much more space on the page below your headlines and descriptions of the ad itself, that if your ad takes up a lot more space on the page, then it's going to get a lot more attention than a much smaller ad. And because of that, it's just a lot more likely to be clicked on. And if Google thinks your ad is more likely to be clicked on, then they're more incentivized to show your ad, because Google obviously only get paid each time somebody clicks on your ad. So it's always worth doing whatever you can to make your ad as big as possible and give Google as much of a reason as possible to show your ad above one of your competitors. And the next things you want to add as well is you want to complete your advertiser verification, which you'll be asked to do very quickly after making a new Google Ads account, where you can add your business name, which you can see here we got a lot of our conversions when the actual business name was shown as an extension, as it's also really good for just boosting authority and trust inside your ad, and your actual business logo as well alongside that does the exact same thing. Now, the next thing we like to add is site links as well, which are really good, especially when you're offering multiple services. Because if a company is looking for a landscaping contractor, like they are here, for example, what we like to do with our site links is not have links to different parts of the website, which is what most people do with their site links. So they have site links, for example, to their contact us page, to their FAQs page, to the about us page. We don't recommend doing that at all with your site links. You want to use site links with purpose and directing traffic to the individual landing pages with your site links. Because you can see here for all of these site links that we're running, for example, they all have high click-through rates and conversion rates. Because if somebody's looking for landscaping services, for example, but they're actually looking to get a patio installed, they can just click on the patio services site link and it'll bring them to that specific landing page that would say, reliable patio services, for example, with clear call to actions right in front of them where they can call directly or fill out the form to get a free quote. We don't want to direct that traffic to some random part of their website that doesn't even have call to actions to become a lead, which is what we want someone to do. So we're not only using these site links to get more clicks on our ads, but any site links that we use, we want them to be directed to pages where somebody's actually likely to convert into a lead as well. The next one then we recommend using is callouts. And callouts are a really useful one because you can literally just list out as many benefits that you can think of about what your company offers. And there's no real limit to the amount of these that you can add. So as many of these as you can possibly think of, they're always going to be worth adding to your campaign. And over time then, once you're running your campaign for a few months and you have a lot of conversion data on each of these call out extensions, you can allocate all your budget to the call out extensions that are performing best. You can pause those that aren't performing, and you can add in new call out extensions that you might think would perform better than the original ones. But it's worth just adding as many of these as you like, where you can simply just list as many benefits as possible to what you offer. I also would add structured snippets to this list, and they're definitely worth adding as they're basically ways you can categorize or list aspects of what you offer. But what I've noticed with structured snippets is that Google just simply doesn't like showing them as much as they do with callouts. You're not going to get as many impressions or nowhere near as many impressions as your callouts as you would with structured snippets. So we found them to be a waste of time almost for the most part because Google just never seems to show our structured snippets. But I would be curious to know if anyone else has experienced otherwise because we're managing a lot of Google Ads accounts and we rarely ever get much impressions on our structured snippets extensions. But it's always worth adding it in regardless. And if your structured snippets do get impressions, then they could just as easily lead to conversions because you're just simply outlining more about what you offer and just making yourself stand out more from your competitors. And the last one, then, we'd really recommend making sure you have inside your campaign, as any service based business, especially, is your call extension. And we're not going to show this exact call extension because it just shows the company that we're working with actual phone number. But if you're looking for phone calls and you're running your ads on mobile, then it's an absolute no brainer to have in place because it's the easiest way to get extra phone calls without even having to sell the person on your landing page. They can simply just call you directly from the ad. If they need the job done, they can just call you directly. And those tend to be the best quality leads possible because they're the highest intent. They just want to get the job done regardless. And giving them the option to call directly is by far the easiest way to have the highest quality leads reach out to you directly. And if you're using all of those extensions or assets inside your campaign, then you can expect Google to much prefer the quality of your ads than those that don't go and take the time to actually add in these assets themselves.